Welcome back to the Ridge Motorsports Park in Washington State. It's the latest round of MotoAmerica. Michael Hill, Steve English and Roger Hayden, your MotoAmerica Live Plus broadcast team. A big hello and welcome to those that are also watching on YouTube. We are just moments away from the MotoAmerica Superbike qualifying one here. I'm down in the pits. It's quite noisy behind me, so can't really hear myself think. But let's have a little look down here. This is Bobby Fong just taking out the earplugs, about to get ready. He was well inside the top four earlier on this morning, but it was his teammate Jake Gagne who was fastest this morning. Jake, if we can get a quick word. A great start this morning. I got to get the helmet on, but everything feeling good? Everything feeling good? Yeah, he's feeling good. He's got to get the helmet on, so we can't get a quick word with him. That's a nice way of basically saying, go away, Michael Hill. We don't want to talk to you right now, but we are just a few minutes away. Gagne was fastest this morning. It's so good to see Jake Gagne back on top in Superbike. And I was talking to Jamie Howe earlier as well before we recorded the preview show, and I was saying, just get the feeling that the Superbike Championship this year is going to go all the way to the end of the season. It's kind of up and down different races. While we've got a little bit of time, let's just have a little wander along. I'm not sure if we will get a chance to speak to any riders, but we can certainly point out a couple of the bikes. We've got 4 or 5 different manufacturers in the series. Yamaha, of course, with Jake Gagne. This is the 54 of Richie Escalante. There you see him just in the hot pit. A new helmet designed for Richie. Very, very colourful and such a great rider. On the podium, of course, in race 2 at Road America and the Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzuki. His teammate is SDK Sean Dillon Kelly, back from a couple of seasons on the world stage in Moto 2. He is definitely going to be one to watch this weekend. Incidentally as well, Steve, you can just see here, used tyre on the rear for Sean Dillon Kelly. Max Flinders goes by him as well. Hayden Gillam, we didn't get a chance to walk as far down the pit lane as I would have liked, but Hayden Gillam on the Honda was second fastest. Roger, you'll know as well, you too, Steve, it's been a lot of years since we've seen a Honda on the podium in Superbike. That could change this weekend. Hayden Gillam was second fastest. The pit lane is open, the track is open. I'm going to get out of the way because there's motorbikes coming towards me at a rate of knots, and I'll hand it back to you boys in the commentary booth.
Thanks, Mike. We can see Max Flinders leading the way out of pit lane. 40-minute session here for qualifying one for the Superbike class, and like Michael was saying down there as well, Jake Gagne very fast this morning. Hayden Gillam doing a very good job up there in second fastest as well. But Rog, it's great to be able to see Jake back on form like this. He started the season with 3 podiums in a row, but to go out there and set that pace this morning, that's really important for him to get this weekend off to a good start.
Huge day morning for him to be able to see himself back out there, top of the time boards by a little bit over a half a second. And when I look at the results this morning, Yamaha, Honda, BMW, Ducati, 4 different brands inside the top 4.
Yeah, and obviously as well for Gagne, we've seen it throughout the course of the season so far. He's qualified on the second row for all 3 rounds, so needs to find something. Mike, you're down in the pits and you've got Josh Herrin with you.
Yeah, down here in the pits, most riders are on the circuit, with the exception of the defending champion, Josh Herrin. Is all smiles down here, looking quite relaxed. Not in any rush to get out today.
Yeah, it's just, with the cold weather and the wind and not having any, really hard compound tires, and knowing tomorrow we're going to have a lot warmer weather, better track conditions. Everybody's getting a lot of tearing on the Superbike tires, so I'm just going to save what good tires I have left for tomorrow. Instead of going through 3 sets now, we'll save a set and go out a little bit later in the session today, or this afternoon. So, yeah, no reason not to be smiling.
Apart from the fact that you've got to talk to me.
Yeah, I'm used to it now, though.
All right, good luck this afternoon. Back to you guys.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. And Josh's going to be back out on track very soon. This is the number 94 as well, and Dan Lewis, who ran off the track earlier in the lap. But Rog, when you look at what we're going to see this weekend, obviously for Gagne, really important to get the weekend off to a strong start. But the best qualifier we've seen through the course of the season is the championship leader, Cam Beaubier, 3 poles in a row.
And for, I think, Jake just able to come out as fast as he was right out of the gate was just so impressive. And I think that's what he needs, coming back from the injury, to be able to kind of get that build that confidence and see that he can still do it.
Yeah, lap record holder here as well, Jake Gagne, from 3 years ago, and it just shows how fast he was back then. And the one thing for riders as well, and we even see it, you look at MotoGP with Pecco Bagnaia, double world champion, when gets that little bit harder to be able to find the lap time. Suddenly you can't even get the lap times you were able to do a few years ago just because you're under the pressure. You feel that all the way through a session and all the way through a weekend.
Yeah, and also the tracks always change, and the bikes, and the crews are always trying to make the bikes better, and sometimes for some riders, they don't feel as good with some of those new updates.
Yeah, and you can see here for Hayden Gillen just making his way around. Second fastest this morning. That was super impressive.
Super impressive, and I think for that team as well, with Honda, they're able to be second this morning, and not only just second, but early on into the session being as competitive as he was, and we'll see if he can continue to back that up as the weekend goes on.
Yeah, really important for Hayden to be able to do that as well, and certainly for Gillen, what we've been able to see is a rider building that confidence with the Honda, and good to see Honda up there as well. And for us here in MotoAmerica to be able to see that sort of improvement from them is really important, and you can catch all the action throughout the course of the season on MotoAmerica Live Plus, so you can sign up to be able to see all the action, the interviews, the highlights, features, and most importantly all the races through the course of the season as well. And you can watch anywhere online, whether it's on a laptop, mobile, Android or Apple iOS as well. So catch that out on MotoAmerica Live Plus. And for Hayden Gillen, we can see here on the Honda, when you look at JD Beach on the Honda, when you look at the Honda as well, this is a bike that has a lot of potential, Rog.
A lot of potential, and the team is just kind of newer with the bike, so there's a lot of things that they're figuring out. For talk about in other classes, they're the only Honda Superbike, so they're doing all the development themselves. So everything that makes this bike better comes through that team, and obviously they're making some really big strides.
Yeah, and you can see here for Beaubier as well on the number 6 machine, championship leader, and Beaubier has not had much luck over the last couple of years with injuries, but when he's on form, he's been able to show that he's still the outright fastest rider in the class.
Yeah, and when he's on form and just his consistency, that mistake at Road America was costly as points, but just a little bit of bad luck the last couple of years. I think one thing for Beaubier coming into this weekend, this track, when he was here last year, but he was riding wounded, so I don't think a lot of data that they were able to bring away from last year here is going to be too useful. Yeah,
that heel injury last year really held him back, and for Beaubier, there were plenty of other crashes as well that led to some bad injuries, but the speed is there. Obviously all the success that he's had in MotoAmerica in the past, went off to Moto2 World Championship, was able to have some really strong performances there. But this is where he really is at his best. And on the BMW, it's not the easiest bike in the world to ride, but he's able to make it work.
No, and I think and he even mentioned it in your interview today from the golf game yesterday, is, when you're in that window, it's great. But whenever you're kind of fighting the bike with a couple things that's not going your way, it makes it really hard.
It's always one of those situations, Rog, as well, where if the bike's able to get into the operating window, you feel great on the bike. And you want to have a bike that has that big operating window. It could be temperature related, it could be anything else, as we see one of the Attack Yamaha riders down, looks like it's Bobby Fong.
Right through there, down into turn 1, which is that first chicane. It's so easy to do with the squeezing the front brake and the engine braking, and also the braking bumps. You see all the riders have a little front chatter through there. But for Bobby, not really a fast crash, so he's going to be able to get back in this session.
Yeah, you can see it's not that fast of a crash just because the wings are still there. Usually if you come off at any sort of speed, those wings will pop right off. But for Bobby, he'll come back to the pits, get the bike checked out, and hopefully it's not going to be too long before he gets himself back out there. But 40-minute session, you don't want to give yourself that uphill struggle.
No, I mean, just kind of put you back a little bit, but just be thankful you can get it back to the pits and figure out, at least he did get a couple laps, so they're going to know about the changes he made from this morning to this afternoon, if it was better while he's already in the pits.
Yeah, just those changing conditions from this morning into the afternoon. It's still a little bit chilly outside here at the Ridge, and one of those situations where you're waiting for the track temperatures to improve over the course of the weekend, but you've still got to see if the improvements you were able to make from this morning into the afternoon really do play out. And the conditions are kind of what I was talking about as well, Roger, about that big operating window for a bike. If you have that window, you feel good on the bike all the time. If it's a narrow window, if you're just that little bit outside of it, it becomes a real handful, and that's what Beaubier has been talking about with the BMW.
And also too, sometimes some of the races in the morning, that the track is pretty cool, and then the race is hot, and it kind of gives you that different track temperature, and it kind of makes that bike where I haven't struggled with this weekend. Well, so far this weekend, but now the track temperatures are way up. So it's not like these guys, that's what makes it so hard, is they don't get 10 minutes before the race to go and check the track conditions. You have this morning, and that's all you got.
Yeah, and it's a real struggle whenever you go into the race as well, where you've got your lap to the grid and then you've got your warm-up lap, and that's it all the way through. And you are always chasing those moving goalposts as well. And Michael, you're down in the pits.
Yeah, Ashton Yates just ahead on track here of Benjamin Smith. And one of the points I wanted to say to the people watching is it's a very much a one-line circuit from that. Benjamin Smith with a huge slide. Sorry, guys, as seeing the same pictures there. But it's very one line at most of this circuit, Roger. Not easy for a Superbike to overtake. You can overtake, but you've got to be pretty brave. And we could see Benjamin Smith on that previous lap. He was 2 or 3 tenths quicker, but just couldn't find a way through. And that sort of caught him out towards the end of the lap.
And that's the thing why qualifying is so important at this track as well, is because of it's difficult to pass. A lot of your passes, you really have to set up a couple corners early to be able to put yourself in that right spot. So every mistake at this place is just, it just seems like it's just double than some of the other tracks because of the technical part.
Yeah, and obviously as well, Rog, this is a place where you have to just apply the pressure to the rider in front of you. It's more car-like rather than bike racing, where you're trying to just force that mistake more than anything else. And certainly what we were able to see in some of the sessions so far is just how easy it is to run in a little bit hot.
Yeah, and you see here the engine braking there as Ashton's going back a couple gears. Look at that bike. We talked about the braking bumps and the bikes moving around. We've heard riders talk about chatter a lot so far this weekend, and this is what you see.
And you can see then as well from Yates what it was like in this afternoon session so far. Down into the same corner, you can see it's a little bit more comfortable for him, but still, Rog, it's moving around a lot on that front end.
Yeah, but still a nice improvement from this morning, and just try to kind of keep going that direction. This corner's so hard to not overshoot it. You hear some riders talk about some tracks go slow to go fast. This is one of those tracks where you can't rush. You got to be patient, and it's really hard when you're out there trying to do a good lap, but also be patient.
Yeah, it's always strange because some circuits you really need to be strong on the brakes to be able to attack. Other places you need to just make sure you're not going to run in too deep. You need to make sure you're not going to make those mistakes. And when you look at the asphalt around this track, there's a lot of patching as well. There's a lot of places where they've been able to lay down a little bit of new asphalt. And when you've got those changes like we can see through this section as well, it does make it even more difficult for the rider as well.
Yeah, and also those pavement transitions is usually a little bit of a bump. And that's something that you'll see a lot of the riders have to deal with. And then they go over the curbs as well. So it's a tough place. It's get the bike to set up to work with the elevation. We've talked a lot about it as well, having a good bike that works all around all 16 turns.
Is it a fun track to ride?
Yeah, it's fun. It's a lot of fun, especially with the elevation and the blindness, and it really flows really well together.
It looks like more of a super sport track than a Superbike track for these guys.
It's definitely a tight track for the Superbikes. I know they all love riding here on the Superbike, but the Superbike's like a track like with the big long straightaways, and you can really use that power. So this one, you got to be a little bit more finesse.
Obviously enough for some of the riders that have come up through the Super Sport ranks, the likes of Josh Herrin as well. We still haven't seen Josh out in this session. He's still down the order, so we'll wait and see when Josh is able to get himself out there. We're about 12 minutes into the session now, so for Herrin, the clock ticks down very quickly. Obviously, we've still got a qualifying session tomorrow as well, Rog.
And that's the thing, just the team making the plans with the tires, and we've seen that, a couple other rounds as well early on in the session. Not going out. Him and the team got a plan. They won a title last year, and I'm sure they learned that throughout the point. But Hayden Gillum, 40.8 on the Honda now, top of the board.
Yeah, and when you look at Hayden's time from this morning as well, he was second fastest with a 41.8, so he's found a second. And obviously some of that, Rog, coming from improvements from the team and the settings on the bike. Some of it coming from maybe using that fresh tire right at the start of the session.
Fresh tire, and also maybe a softer compound. I know a lot of riders this morning were kind of going back and forth about which compound they wanted to use. So there's just so many different variables in the Superbike.
What's the biggest factor for the riders as well? Is it the front tire, is it the rear tire that they're looking at?
More the rear on the Superbike, because it's all about the grip. And, once you get in there, if you can really use that power, the front end definitely, you don't want a lot of front chatter, but I think the big thing for these guys is grip.
And then obviously as well, Dunlop providing the tyres, but given that we've seen the cold tearing issues, the low temperatures here compared to what was expected, you then also have to use that harder tyre that maybe you wouldn't want to use if you were looking for that ultimate speed. As we see everyone making their way around the track. Josh Herrin out there on the number 1 machine, and good to be able to see Josh out there ready to put in some lap times on his number 1 Ducati. And for Herrin so far this season, second in the championship, only 2 points down, but winner of both races last time out. He's had 5 podiums through the course of the season, and had a top 5 at the opening race of the year as well. But for Josh, he's got that bit of momentum now, Rog, and just trying to find that next step that he needs on the Ducati. But it looks like it's set up to be a really good summer now for the Superbike class.
Yeah, and I think for Josh, if you go back a season, this is when he started going on his run, where he started clawing back a lot of points and really being consistent. And I think now Josh sees he's got himself right back in this title fight.
As we can see, Josh just about ready to finish off his lap as well, halfway through the lap, and he's just put in the fastest first sector of all, 32.9, so we'll see what he's able to do. The fastest time we have so far in this session, a 40.8 from Hayden Gillum. Cameron Beaubier about a tenth of a second slower than that. Bobby Fong third fastest, but we saw the number 50 have a crash as well. Jake Gagne was fastest in this morning session. He's fourth fastest in this. Richie Escalante on the number 54 Suzuki up there inside the top 5. And then the number 17 of Kornbau is sixth fastest. Ben Smith, we saw that big slide earlier in the session on the number 78 Yamaha. He's seventh fastest. Ashton Yates, Sean Dillon Kelly and JD Beach rounding out the top 10. And for those riders, they know that Josh Herrin's about to move his way up to the top of the timesheets, Raj.
Yeah, it looks like Josh, though, a little problem with traffic there. Able to get by there. Good job by that rider, giving him plenty of room as they're getting off the track. But I think, as you see right here, we're going to see what Josh Herrin can do on his very first flying lap. The Sean Dillon Kelly down there in ninth. He's qualified on the front row some this year. It's just not you've seen him down there in ninth even in this morning. Yeah,
Josh Herrin now 0.2 of a second faster, just under 0.2 of a second faster than Hayden Gillum, so he might have waited a little bit longer than some of the other riders to go out there, but he was straight away down to the speed you'd expect from him. And Hayden doing a good job there as well. And the interesting thing with it, Rog, obviously for Herrin, this is a bit of a statement as well, just to show the confidence that he has. And a big part of it for the riders just comes down to being able to put it all on the line when you have to. And Herrin, he's been able to show that over the years, whether it was in the Super Sport class or the Superbike class, that he's able to do that.
It just seems like when it matters, he can step up. You know, some of those guys are able to rise to the occasion, and Josh has always been able to do that.
We've got in the top 6, 5 different manufacturers: Ducati, Honda, BMW, Yamaha, and then Richie Escalante and his Suzuki in sixth fastest. And great to be able to see that sort of variety in the Superbike class. And for Herrin from the Honda then of Hayden Gillum, it's nice to be able to see Hayden able to put in those times as well. And that's going to give so much confidence to that team going into this weekend, Rog, because it's okay to do it in the morning session, but this is the session that matters. This is one of the sessions that determines the grid for tomorrow.
Yeah, just be able to do it consistently and back it up. I think it's the big thing. And that's a great showing for him right now, sitting in second. Led the session for a while, so just a great weekend. Hopefully they can carry this out through the races tomorrow as Jake Gagne goes to the top now at the 40.1.
Yeah, 40.1 there for Jake Gagne, and that's around about a second off of his outright lap record. But Jake, the first time we've really been able to see him put it out on the line right now in this session and able to move himself up to the top of the timesheets. Through the course of the season so far, Gagne's qualifying performances, they've left a little bit to be desired for a rider with his ambitions. And for Jake, it was fourth on the grid at Barber, sixth on the grid at Road Atlanta, and then fifth on the grid in Road America. So really important this weekend to give himself that chance to be up in the front row of the grid. And you can see he's pushing on there as well, the front closing a little bit there on the brakes on the entry. And that's one of the things we've seen quite a bit over the course of the running so far here at the Ridge, Rog. You've got so much of it where you're braking on the angle, and it's so easy just to tuck the front or have a bit of a moment. But you have to ride like that if you want to be able to get that fast time. And
for Jake, I think just this session, the way it started this morning and now the way this session's going, getting that momentum. We talk about confidence, talk about momentum. Jake is a dangerous guy when he's got a lot of confidence and momentum, and this could be a snowball as this weekend continues. Yeah, all the success that we've seen from Jake over the years, and he's a rider that was always noted for his natural talent. Obviously, very good motocross rider and able to transition into the short circuit racing as well, and he's been able to have a lot of success as a road racer as well. Raced in World Superbikes,
And when you talk to his team back then, they always talked about a really raw, natural talent. And with the Attack Yamaha team, he's been able to refine that, and for the team, they've been able to do a really good job to let him get the most out of himself.
And for him, I think the big thing is he does a 39.9 that last lap, getting closer to his race record. Is just getting that momentum and that confidence back, coming back from the injury and all those things. Last year was a really tough year, not only physically but mentally.
And you can see Josh Herrin now out there on that number 1 machine, and for Herrin last time around he was able to find a few tenths of a second, but still a third of a second down on Gagne as we look at the current pace setter, and he was pushing on.
See how hard he's braking there with the front wheel off the ground. That's the tough part too, is turning the bike into the corner when the rear wheel's up off the ground, but it just shows you how hard they're pushing.
It's interesting as well though that we've seen so many riders adjust their style a lot to allow them to brake like that. We see more and more riders with the seat unit a lot lower, trying to make it almost like what we see Top Rack Razgadioglu doing to give them that bit of confidence on the brakes.
And that's the thing, Jake seems like he has a lot of that getting on the brakes.
And Michael Hill, you're down in the pits.
Yeah, well, actually, I'm not down in the pits. I've had a bit of a wander. I'm now down in the paddock, and you're probably going to see some images in a second of the Herritos Honda, which should be being ridden by the newly married Gabriel De Silva. He had a technical issue in FP1, and I was just ambling along the pit lane as I normally do, realised that there was no Herritos bike there, which is was a bit of a disappointment because it means I can't get a free drink in the middle of a session. But nonetheless, we've come out into the paddock. Gabriel, understandably, is not in the pits at the moment, or in the paddock. He's off watching the session around the circuit, so we thought we'll give you a close-up of the bike. Honda, of course, going pretty well here at the Ridge, and Gabriel will be looking for sure to be back out on the session tomorrow. Hopefully the team, the 3D Motorsport team, will be looking to make amends. Of course, as I said, recently married, so from all of us at MotoAmerica Live Plus, congratulations to Gabriel De Silva. I wonder if he's brought us any wedding cake, Steve?
Well, I'm a celiac, so I won't be able to partake in that one way or the other, Mike. But for the team, obviously, just trying to just make their way through this weekend. But good to be able to see Rog in the course of this session halfway through, that we're now really getting down to some fast times. You mentioned that Jake Gagne getting closer and closer to his outright lap record. The outright lap record here is a 39.1, so about 8 tenths of a second off that, but the outright race record is a 39.6, so we're getting pretty close to good race times.
And the thing with Jake too that's been impressive is we talk a lot about race pace and the consistency. He did 3 or 4 of those laps within pretty close to the same lap time, and that's what's going to matter when they go racing tomorrow.
Yeah, and that consistency is always the key, especially whenever you're around a track like this. You talked about it already, about trying to string those laps together. But during the course of a qualifying session, what are you looking for as a rider? Is it all about that outright lap time right now, or are you working towards the races over the weekend when you know you've got tomorrow morning's qualifying session as well?
Early on in this session, just try and get ready for the race, do as many of those laps and see what the tires are going to feel like after 6 or 7 really hard laps early on. I think it's the big thing is these Superbike races are long. 1 lap is one thing, but going out there and being consistent for the whole race is hard.
Yeah, and you spoke earlier on as well about being able to hear the engine braking and the electronics out there as well, and the electronics always key on a Superbike, but especially to be able to manage that tire wear. And one of the big factors for the riders is you're actually trying to free up the electronics a lot as the session goes on. As the tire drops down, you're trying to make sure that the electronics don't cut in as much. They want to give it a little bit more freedom, because otherwise you can really start chewing up that tire.
And also with the electronics, so you can work backwards too. You can take too much power away. These Superbikes should be hard to ride. So you don't want to make it too easy and take too much power away.
Yeah, and you can see here for Cameron Beaubier on that number 6 machine, championship leader with a new personal best in that middle sector. We'll see what Cam's able to do across the line. 4th fastest so far in this session as Beaubier comes across the line and doesn't find an improvement there. But for Cam Beaubier, he's certainly a rider that's been able to show his form through the course of this season, and you can play MotoAmerica for cash in the Superbikes, the Baggers and the Supersport classes on your top sports books and DFS platforms. Just scan the flow code or visit nxtbets.com/playmA to see what's available in your location. And Beaubier this weekend, it's going to be interesting to see if he's able to bounce back from that crash last time out.
And also, I think he's won here before and he's been at the front, so it's going to be interesting to see now with the championship a lot closer what Cam's going to be able to do this weekend.
Yeah, and for Beaubier, obviously, we've got 9 rounds through the course of the season. We've got a triple header coming up as well at Laguna next time out. this really is a critical juncture of the season for him. He knows that Josh Herrin's going to be strong and consistent in his Ducati, and for Beaubier, he'll also know that he can't really afford to make too many mistakes.
And you don't want to give Josh that momentum. Continue to another win and then just keep building on that. You want to come here and put yourself back at the top and, you know, show them that, you know, you're here to mean business, and you don't want to let another rider continue to get confidence.
Yeah, obviously for Cam as well, at this stage of the session, we haven't seen what he can do for his single lap pace. He's around about a second slower than where he'd expect to be. 39.9 from Jake Gagne is the fastest time, and a 40.9 for Cam Beaubier. So Beaubier's been out there working on his race settings and just trying to give himself that chance to learn for tomorrow. But this is when, into the last 15 minutes of the session, you'd certainly expect to see he'll start throwing in a tyre. But Hayden Gillum out there on the number 69 machine, and Hayden still third fastest in this one. He's around about a half a second slower than Josh Herrin, so in and around where he'll want to be really in terms of what his lap time is, and definitely where he needs to be, Rog, for the qualifying session as well. This is a really solid day from Hayden. Really
solid day, just able to consistently, we talk a lot with some of the other riders consistently able to do it, but Hayden's consistently been in the front at the top three in both sessions, and right now just hopefully through the weekend it'd be great to see this carry on to the first race and watch this Honda battle for a Superbike win.
He's been consistent in the qualifying session so far this season, 7.76 in the first 3 rounds, so he's knocking on the door of what he needs to do, which is been on that second row of the grid really, and now he's been able to put it all together so far this weekend as well. Obviously 15 minutes left in the session, so a lot can change, but Hayden's going to give himself a lot of confidence for that as well, as we catch up now with Sean Dillon Kelly, and SDK 6th fastest on the number 40 machine. And for Sean, it's about trying to give yourself those opportunities to be on the front row of the grid. He's been on the front row of the grid each round so far this season on the outside of that front row.
And he's 2 seconds quicker than he went this morning, struggled a little bit. So I think that's a huge strides that he's able to find. And now we got to keep going, keep finding. You got a couple more seconds you need to find to be able to fight for that podium battle.
What do you think of Sean as well? Obviously his time over in Europe in the Moto2 World Championship didn't go according to what he would have planned. But in terms of what he's able to do on the Superbike?
Just impressive what he was able to do last year as a rookie, to come in and fight for wins. And you know, moving a Superbike is so hard now with the electronics and all the different stuff that comes along with it. And Sean is just he's a talent, and he's focused and he's all in, and you never have to question his effort. It
was a really tough time last time out in Road America for him, but the opening 4 races of the year finished inside the top 5, good consistency on the Suzuki, and that team puts together a really good outfit for him as well. And certainly for the Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzuki squad, they've been able to turn that around over the years, and SDK is another rider that gives them that chance to be able to have good performances with.
And I think having 2 teammates with Sean and Richie, they can elevate each other, which is going to elevate that team, and I think it's going to be huge for them. And that team definitely knows how to win races and win championships.
Yeah, and you can see here the number 78 comes across line, Ben Smith, and just about to start his first flying lap of this stint, and he's got JD Beach behind them as well. JD last time around about 0.4 of a second slower than his fastest lap in this session. Big luck over his shoulder as well, so this won't be a fast lap for JD, but certainly for Beach, it's another one of those sessions where you're just trying to keep building yourself up, and in that Superbike Cup class, you've got to give yourself those opportunities, Rog.
And that's the thing also, just moving to the Honda. So, you know, just all these races for JD is important.
And this is on board with Ben Smith. This is from this morning's session as well. And Rod, you're able to look forward and backwards on this, and you're able to get a proper rider's eye view.
Yeah, we talk a lot, you're able to see it on this view, is the elevation we talk about. And it starts right here, as you'll see this as they go right here, 2, 3, up this hill. You can't see where you're going. That's why we talk about reference points. Where do I go? Now you're already there when you can see the corner. This long left-hander, it's really fun up through here, and then they get like a carousel. Last race it was a super long right-hander, and we come here and it is left. And I'll show you, Steve, when we come up to probably the trickiest corner on this whole circuit. As you see, watch the drop straight downhill, and then they have to get on the front brake. It puts such a load on that front tire.
Yeah, and you can see here for Ben Smith, just giving us that perfect example of it. And that weight transfer as well makes it even more difficult in trying to get the bike stopped. But there's so many places like that. And you mentioned about the reference points, Rog. You've obviously got a lot of trees around here, but you're trying to focus on like that specific tall tree on the left of those three trees. It's so tricky for the riders.
Oh yeah, it's, you know, to try to find a curb or a piece of asphalt change, just anything that you know is going to be consistent there each lap. Talked a lot about all these corners running together. This is going to be a perfect example. If you mess up turn 13 here, then you've messed up this next right-hander. Then you messed up the next left, and it just carries all the way through.
And even more important than that as well, in theory, you could easily wreck your next lap as well, just by losing that momentum onto the start-finish straight. This last corner, though, was a great corner as well. You see riders spinning it up through there, just trying to straight line it as much as they can. As we see down into the pits for Ben Smith, and talking to his team rather than our TV director this time. But for Ben, he's up there in the provisional top 10, third row of the grid in 9th spot as well. But 2.5 seconds off the pace of Jake Gagne. So for Ben Smith, it's about trying to find those small steps in each sector that you're able to do. But over the course of the season so far, he's qualified on the third row of the grid for all 3 rounds, as he'll get ready to get himself out for the last.
A decade ago. He is now part of this team, and he's actually now just working on the rear of the bike. There's a new rear tyre going in just off camera for Ben Smith, who is looking at the monitor. Ed Sullivan, of course, part of this team. But I'll tell you what, Steve, the Flow for Law Racing Yamaha team, as you've quite rightly pointed out, such a good season. Ben's such a good talent, just 25 years of age, but they're bringing in some big names to help with this project, and it's definitely working.
Yeah, and for Ben, we've been able to see some decent performances in the races as well. Obviously, in the qualifying sessions, you'll put yourself up there on the third row. The grid's important, but 8th in the championship as well, Rog. So he's been able to come away with some good point scoring finishes.
And last race 2, MotoAmerica top 5, ends up 4th. Couple, you know, other riders made a couple mistakes, and I think that the thing for Ben, he's been so consistent this year, but they've had some issues on Friday mornings that's kind of set them back going into the weekend, where they've had to kind of claw back and give themselves a little extra work.
Yeah, and for Ben, just turned 25 a couple of weeks ago as well. You get that experience, you get that chance to be able to make that step, and that's what you have to do as well. You think back to your career as well, Rog. There's always those moments where suddenly you went from really having to ride as hard as you could for 6th, 7th, 8th position. Then suddenly it became a little bit easier to fight for those top 5s as we catch up with Richie Escalante as he fairly fights with his Suzuki down in towards turn 1, that chicane.
Yeah, that's just so difficult, the hard braking through there, going back to first gear. Just that's where electronics are going to kick in, and they're going to try to use some electronic aids to help those riders.
Yeah, you see a lot of riders running across the paint down there as well. Of course, the FIM has homologated paint to make sure that it's not going to be too slick out there, but you don't want to put yourself in those positions either. But Richie, comfortable with that back end stepping out, but you're trying to give yourself the most chance, Rog, of opening up that corner as much as you can as well.
Yeah, just like we talked about the last corner, you're trying to make it as straight as possible. You're trying to keep that very first left-hander in that chicane where you don't have to slow down as much going through there. Richie Escalante was on the preview show this morning and talked about he wanted a stronger very first session of the weekend, and he thinks that's what him and his team's been missing. And this morning Richie was, this morning he had a good qualifier in 6th, and then this morning he's a second off, so he's right there.
Yeah, the 54 is qualified 5th for 2 of the rounds so far this season, so we'll look straight at number 5, and sure enough it's Richie Escalante. So good solid consistency from Richie, and on his Suzuki he's doing a good job. He's ahead of his teammate Sean Dillon Kelly as well, as Ben Smith gets himself ready to go out on that Yamaha. And Rog, we can see the wings on the Yamaha as well. That was one of the big key things that they were developing for this new package for the bike this year, just to try and give them that little bit of extra wheelie control to make sure that the front stays down a little bit lower. And around a track like this with the elevation changes, that could make a little bit of a difference.
Yeah, it could be big, especially we talked about some of these corners, the first gear, so the bike wants to wheelie a lot, and you know, with the wings they can use less engine aids to slow the bike down. So always trying to find something, that little bit. You see all these teams and all these manufacturers just moving that goalpost a little bit each year. Yeah,
it's a game of inches really out there. For small changes make big impacts on the bike. You can see for Josh Herrin here in the number 1 machine leading the way. The Ducati V4R Panigale was the first bike that we really saw with those wings on it. There'll be a new V4 next year as well. But when you look at the evolution of that package as well. You look at the BMW and the size of the front wing on that bike. When you see Cam Beaubier next time on the number 6 machine, check out the front wing, because it really is very different. It almost overpowers the front of the bike compared to what you can see on the Ducati or the Yamaha, or especially the Honda. Much smaller wings on the Honda. As Josh makes his way around now as well. And for Herrin, he hasn't been busy in this session. Only 5 laps, spent 15 minutes in the pits as well. At the start of the session, he's been in the pits for 10 or 15 minutes now again. So he's doing his best to keep his running to a minimum, but the speed's there. And you mentioned it earlier on, Rog, when push comes to shove, he's always able to find what he needs. Yeah,
and we're going to see what he can do right here under 7 minutes left in this session. So he's going to get a couple laps in. It's going to be a big couple minutes for Josh to see if those changes that they've been making, if he can continue to get a little bit closer to Jake Gagne.
Yeah, and certainly for Josh, he's got that confidence level, but it's also one of those question marks about you don't want to not have the time on the tyres. You've spoken earlier, Rog, about using the first half of the session to try and give yourself that experience of what you need for the races, and you don't want to leave yourself where you haven't given yourself enough track time as well by the time we get to tomorrow. As Josh makes his way around and just coming down in towards the final sector now as well, and he'll try and build up into this one. Just looking at Hayden Gillam's lap as well. Hayden faster than anyone's been in the first sector, and Hayden Gillam on the number 69 machine really giving himself an opportunity here to surprise everyone. We catch up with him, Rog.
Yeah, right up here coming into turn 11, tricky part where you're trying to, it's almost a double apex. You enter it pretty wide to put yourself in the right spot as he heads down into this right-hander.
Yeah, and still fast in that middle sector as well, a 34.1. So he's given up a couple of tenths of a second on Jake Gagne, but on the lap in total for him through the course of this session, he's about 8 tenths of a second slower than Gagne. So this is going to be a massive step forward for Hayden, and this just shows you the difference that having that little bit of confidence makes, Roger. It really builds lap after lap whenever you're feeling good on the bike.
And you can just see you can see it in his riding and just the way he's able to be more aggressive on the bike. And it's going to be a great lap for Hayden.
Yeah, Hayden just about to come across the line. His fastest lap in the session, a 40.8. And as he comes across the line, he's found 3/4 of a second there as well. And a 40.1. He's ahead of Josh Herrin now by 2 tenths of a second. Only 2 tenths of a second down on Jake Gagne. Obviously, we have to wait and see what Josh is able to do on his next flying lap. But that's just a great effort from Hayden Gillam on the Honda. That's going to give him such a boost. But the team are going to get a big boost from it as well.
And it's going to be interesting to see if he can back that up, do another couple laps in that low minute 40 range.
Well, he's just through that first sector as well, and he's faster than he went last time around. So another consistent time as well in that first sector. But a few other riders out there putting in fast times. Jake Gagne is not out on track just yet. He's still in the pits, but for Gagne, we'll see him out. We know that Josh Herrin's out there. Herrin's put in a personal best in the middle of this lap, actually in and around the same sort of speed as what we saw from Hayden Gillam on his lap. Let's see if Josh is able to find a little bit of time in that final sector to move himself up onto that front row, and again just moves himself ahead of Hayden Gillam. Only a tenth of a second between him and Jake Gagne, and he's losing that time in that first sector, it looks like, Roger.
Yeah, this is where he's at right now through this first sector, so we'll see if he's able to make some improvements here. There's a lot of elevation, which makes the bike gets really light right here. You can see it kind of move around a little bit as he goes down into this left-hander.
And we've got a crasher down there as well. Richie Escalante on the number 54 machine, the man fifth in the standings right now. And for Escalante and his Suzuki, just trying to get some help there from the marshals, and hopefully that bike's able to run from there. But it looks like maybe a little bit of damage on the right-hand side of the bars for him. But for Escalante, he's going to try and give himself the chance to get back to the pits at least, but we're under 4 minutes left in the session, so that's going to be the end of his run.
Yeah, right over there in turn 12, probably pushing a little harder than that front tire was wanting to go in that right-hander, as we see Josh Herrin now on a really good lap, able to back up what he did previously.
Yeah, Josh just about to come up to those yellow flags as well, though, so we'll see if that's been cleared by the time he comes around. But great first sector. That's where he needed to find some time. Loses it in the second sector, so presumably, Rog, that's just from those yellow flags.
Yeah, the yellow flags, and then also every rider, you make a little mistake, and you can see, you know, when you go and you look at the data, you can see where you're losing each lap.
And for Josh, it's still that case of trying to put in some consistent times. 40.0, his fastest lap in this session, and shouldn't be able to match that kind of time, so having lost that time in the middle of the lap. But if he's able to come out with still another low 41, it's going to give him confidence that lap after lap he's going to have something, and still has time for 2 more laps at the end of this session as well. And just seen on the timing screen as well that Jake Gagne has left the pits, and Jake's got time to run in maybe 2 laps here at the end of the session as well. So we'll see if Jake's able to find some more time as well. And that looks like Cam Beaubier just leaving the pits now as well. Cam's going to have time for 1 flying lap at the end of the session. As we can see Cam coming down. Mike, you're down in the pits, and you got a little bit of news about Cam.
Yeah, absolutely spot on there, Steve. You rightly said he's got 1 lap. He came in with just over 3 minutes and 40 seconds of the session remaining. A new rear boot in that BMW, the Titleist BMW. He's got an out lap, and he's going to get just 1 flying lap. But he's throwing everything at this. Beaubier currently P4, as we see Hayden Gillam come across the line. He's going to get 1 lap. It's like an old Super Bowl situation, Steve.
Another fast lap there from Hayden Gillam with a 40.5, so still faster than anyone other than the top 3 have gone as well, Rog. That's good consistency.
Really good consistency, and able to back that up even with a couple laps on the tires. Just been, we can't say enough about the real steel Honda boys and what Hayden's doing this weekend.
That Honda's always been a bike that actually changes direction quite well, and that suits a track like this as well. As we can see for Cam Beaubier making his way around on the number 6 machine, and Beaubier hasn't been able to put in the kind of times we'd expect from him, but we know from Michael Hill down in the pits that he's out there with that fresh tyre for 1 push at the end of this session to be able to try and do something. The other side of this coin as well, Rog, he'll probably use this tyre tomorrow morning as well, just to be able to put some laps on it to give him that experience for the race.
Yeah, and for Cam, he knows he's got to find some time. He's 7/10 behind, almost a second behind Jake Gagne, so there's a pretty big mountain to climb. You need to start climbing right now.
Yeah, you need to make sure you're able to give yourself something going into this evening. You don't want to sit with the team after a session. It's very difficult for the rest of the evening if you've got that time to find. And for Cam Beaubier, he's got round about 1 minute and 40 seconds to see where he's going to stack up. He's got time for 1 lap now at the end of this 40-minute session, and just peels his way into turn 1, into that chicane. That's not how the track was originally designed, Rog, and it is tricky for the riders coming back across into that section.
Yeah, and through there, just because this would be turn 1, and there's just not enough runoff if you had that whole
terrifying
front
turn 1.
But Beaubier's bike looked really good going into that chicane compared to a lot of the other riders. We've seen their bikes moving around quite a bit. The BMW's looking stable.
Yeah, and for Beaubier, we'll see what he's able to do on this lap. But Josh Herrin is out there with the fastest first sector of all. And Josh, a 32.8 in sector 1. He's a 1/10 of a second faster than Jake Gagne. As Gagne just winding his way up to be able to start his last lap of this session as well. But look at that time that's lost in that middle sector as well from Josh.
Just look, you can see right there, he was under almost a half a second in that 1 sector.
It's a strange one as well because it's easy to override when you're trying to find that time as well, Rog. And for the Ducati, it's not always the easiest bike to have to grab by the scruff of the neck like that if you're trying to set that 1 fast lap. And obviously for Josh, his session will be over. The checkered flag is out, and he's not going to be able to improve his time. We'll see if anyone else is able to improve their times as well. As we see the checkered flag there. This is Cam Beaubier, and Beaubier halfway through the lap, Rog, he's not finding any time.
Yeah, not finding time. So whatever they're working on, him and the crew's going to have to be sitting down. They're going to be looking at that data all night, trying to figure out where Beaubier is struggling a little bit.
Yeah, and obviously for the rider, this is where you really need to be able to trust your team as well. They've been able to show it over the course of the season so far, leading the championship, 3 pole positions in a row. They're not going to be giving themselves that pat in the back for their past performances, but you'll also have that bit of belief that they're going to be able to find something going into tomorrow.
Hayden's last lap was another minute 40.7, so he backed it up even more, and he's still on another good one here to finish out this qualifier.
Yeah, it looked like a little wave there as well to the team, and rightly so, because they've been able to put in a really good job there as well, a 40.9. So those 4 or 5 laps at the end of this qualifying session, he's been able to keep himself in the 1 minute 40s. Obviously, you want to have it where your delta from that fast time to your slow time is as small as possible. But for Hayden on that number 69 machine, this is going to give him and the team so much confidence going into tomorrow. but we still have another qualifying session. It's only a provisional front row of the grid with Jake Gagne, we can see here in the number 32 machine, provisionally on pole from Josh Herrin and Hayden Gillum. Bit of work to be done for Cam Beaubier on the second row of the grid, and then we've got the two Suzukis of Richie Escalante, who we saw have a crash at the end of the session, and then Sean Dillon Kelly on the provisional second row of the grid. But you can see here for Gagne on this lap, still the bike moving around underneath him there, Rog.
Yeah, it looks like he got the checkered flag as well. So for Jake, didn't really get to go out there toward the end of the session and see what kind of lap he can throw down. See Jake here also. What a great day for Jake, leading the session this morning and then now coming in here, provisional pole. I think this can be a huge boost for Jake going in through the rest of the season, and we'll see. Tomorrow is when it matters. Qualifying and practice is one thing, but when it matters is tomorrow, and I think Jake right now is looking really good. Yeah,
Jake really is looking very impressive here at the Ridge, and really strong performance here on the opening day from Jake Gagne on that Attack Yamaha machine. For over a century, Tom Doom of Fine Jewelers have provided premium engagement rings, wedding rings, fine jewellery and luxury watches. Today, Tom Doom Jr. leads his staff of master jewellers and genealogists in honouring his father's legacy by persevering through hardship and exceptional jewellery work. Check out Tom Doom of Fine Jewellery's website at tjfj.com. JD Beach on the number 95 Honda, just making his way around at the end of this session, and provisionally on the fourth row of the grid for JD Beach. But the chasing pack is all trying to chase down Jake Gagne. Jake Gagne, the fastest rider here in the opening day at the Ridge Motorsport Park. And for Gagne, the only rider down in those 1:39s. Josh Herrin and the impressive Hayden Gillum up there on his Honda to make it 3 different manufacturers inside the top 3. And then we've got Cam Beaubier and his BMW, the Suzuki of Richie Escalante. So 5 manufacturers inside the top 5 at the end of the opening day here at the Ridge. And Sean Dillon Kelly on that second row of the grid.
Tough session there for Bobby Fong down there in 7th. Got some work to do.
Yeah, we saw a crash for Bobby during the course of that session. We saw some other incidents as well. Dan Lewis and a few other riders having some issues. But for the riders, they'll know they still have tomorrow to be able to set the grid for our opening race of the weekend for the Superbike class. Jake Gagne setting our pace and leading the way here in the Superbike class. If you want to play MotoAmerica for cash, the Superbike class is live on your top sportsbook, so check out nxtbets.com/playma to be able to see who you like. And Rog, who do you like?
Well, after seeing today, Jake Gagne there is looking pretty strong going into the races tomorrow. But look at Hayden Gillum. Look where he's at down there. Put a little something on that if you're looking for a long shot. Yeah,
and we saw that consistency from Hayden as well, so it's going to be interesting to see what he's able to do on day 2 here at the Ridge. And Michael Hill, you're down in Parc Ferme with Jake Gagne, our pace setter here on the opening day in the Superbike class.
I am indeed, Steve, the only rider to go sub 1:40 on the opening day. Jake Gagne, former champion, and fastest this morning, fastest this afternoon, provisional pole. Job done.
Yeah, good Friday. Race is what counts, but I feel like we're kind of steadily getting there. I'm kind of steadily getting there. We've been a little off pace this year, but we're trying, and I feel like we got a little bit more of a comfortable kind of bike underneath us. And I mean, I've always liked this track. I think it suits me. It suits the Yamaha. So, but yeah, we got work to do in the race. All these boys are going to be hauling butt. So, good day. We'll try to go faster tomorrow.
We're talking a lot this season about just how competitive the Superbike Championship is. 5 different manufacturers in the top 5. Obviously, Yamaha on top with yourself, but you've got Josh Herrin and Hayden Gillum snapping at your heels, just 1/10 of a second between the provisional front row. I see the smile on your face. This is going to be such a great race tomorrow.
Yeah, it's cool to see. I mean, like I say, everybody says that, but the Superbike class gets more and more stacked every year. Yeah, obviously, Herrin and Bobes and Bobby, and it's cool to see Hayden up there on the Honda. I think that's an awesome ride for them. So, yeah, I mean, but race time, so we got to try to do our job, and we got another queue in the morning and try to go faster.
Final question before we let you go and debrief. Obviously, weather conditions expected to be hotter tomorrow, even hotter on Sunday. Did you get a chance to try any of the different tyre compounds in that session, or just saving it all for tomorrow?
Yeah, a bit. I mean, the heat's going to help everything because, I mean, I think everybody's kind of tearing tires a little bit when the track's this cold, so the heat's going to help everybody out, I think, and looking forward to that, yeah.
Excellent stuff. I was going to ask you one more question, if we can. Prediction for lap times tomorrow, 39.9. Can we go much faster?
Yeah.
No pressure.
Yeah. I mean, we're gonna have a softer qualifying Dunlop in the morning, and we always go faster than that. You kind of never really know till you get on or how much time you'll get. But yeah, I expect to see some more guys in the 39s on race tires, and then even faster on the queue. So we'll see.
Thanks, Jake. And Steve, obviously I'm going to throw this back up to you, but Yamaha, Ducati, Honda, BMW and Suzuki were second covering the top 5. 5 different manufacturers. That is proper Superbike.
Yeah, 5 different manufacturers inside the top 5. And the outright lap record, around about 0.8 of a second faster than Jake was able to go in this session. So we've still got plenty of room for improvement, like he said, once we put in that soft tyre. But Hayden Gillum with a very impressive day, Rog.
Yeah, very, very impressive for Hayden and that team, what they've been able to do this morning, and then carrying it over to this qualifier and just able to consistently put in some really fast laps. They're looking solid going into tomorrow.
Yeah, good consistency as well. We see Josh Herrin here as well. Second fastest today for Josh, and 2 5-lap stints during the course of this qualifying session. Second fastest, 1/10 of a second slower than Jake Gagne. And for Josh and his team, they'll obviously feel that there's a bit of improvement to be able to find in tomorrow morning's qualifying session when we'll be able to use that softer tyre. Jake Gagne here on the number 32 machine, leading the way at the end of the opening day in the Superbike class here at the Ridge Motorsports Park. We'll be back after the break with the Twins Cup class and their qualifying session for this weekend.